Hi, everybody. Welcome back to part 2 of the podcast. Bringing on with Paul Laine, from British Columbia, my friend. Canadians, 2 Canadians chatting tonight.
That's right. 2 Canadians with different accents chatting, bringing our country together.
Oh, you're right. It's been 3 weeks since my last podcast. So that's something, I realize when I have about, I would say when I have 2 weeks between podcasts, here we speak French, so I start, if I do 2-3 podcasts in a week, my English, like right now, in March, I start to do the conventions and go back in the U.S. because wintertime is harder to drive in the U.S. So I tend to lose a little bit of my, because sometimes, people, hey, you have no accent. But now I realize that it's showing a little bit more, probably because, I haven't been in the U.S. enough in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I guess I wish I was bilingual, but I'm not. And I often, I'm not going to ask you the question, which language do you think in, because I already know the answer. But you know what? You speak in English is probably half as fast as you speak in French. But man, you speak fast.
I do, but that's the thing, that I didn't realize is that it depends where. But if I have a podcast with people from California, oh my God, they speak so fast compared to people from the part of New York or Boston.
Sure.
Big difference.
Sure.
In Georgia, people from Georgia, my friend Shane Pittman, he has such a wonderful accent. That's something you probably realize when you start touring. Did people notice that he had an accent from Canada, or there's no big difference from British Columbia, let's say, compared to New York or Boston or...
Oh, sure. I worked with Danger New York for 12 years, and they harassed me constantly, just about different words. And, we speak a little different, and we use different phrases. Obviously, New York is chock full of, local phrasing and local slang. And I'm sure that, Quebec is as well, right? It's just everything.
Definitely, yeah.
But you can probably tell where someone's from, right, inside Quebec.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
A lot easier than I could, tell where someone was from in British Columbia. You probably have a better sense of your province. There's probably a little more different dialects in the French language, and I'm guessing here. But I relate it to New York because, in one small area of New York, you can tell if someone's from from the Bronx, or they're from Manhattan, or they're from Brooklyn, because everyone has, like England, everyone has a different accent, even though they're so close together.
Exactly. I don't know if you know Steve DeShavi from the show Dead Files, and Steve is a former Brooklyn detective, and oh my God, his accent combined with mine, made for one of the funniest podcasts ever. And Steve has the famous line, "Nobody has an accent." I mean, nobody else. Everybody else has an accent but me. But he has that thick Brooklyn accent, like from the city, and so it was so cool. I could have just let him talk for an hour and a half and not even ask a question. The guy is so funny, but it's true. And a lot of people from Canada think that the minute we're from Canada, we go like, "Hey," every time we talk. And I haven't heard you say it once tonight during the first part of the podcast.
Yeah, I don't use "a" much. I think I have to be, maybe a little inebriated, and it might come out. But when I first went to New York, it would come out every now and then. Like I would say something, I would, "How's it going, eh?" And everyone would stop dead on the tour bus, and they'd sort of raise their eyebrows, look at me. And then they were relentless.
My God! So you had a great relationship with the guys from, from Danger, right? Because when you came,
yeah, I still do. Bruno and I are the best of friends, and Bruno and I worked together on the Dark Horse thing. He mixed the record.
That's amazing. Did you ever meet Ted Poley?
Yeah, Ted and I finally met in 2009 at Firefest. Because Danger was playing Firefest, and I was playing Firefest as a solo artist. So it was the first time. So me and Ted got together, and I think we sang "Beat the Bullet" or some Dangers. I think that was it. Joined them on stage for their night, and actually the guys in Danger backed me up for my solo night. So they played everything off the Stick It in Your Ear.
Wow.
So it was fun. I flew to New York. We rehearsed like old times, but doing my stuff because they were fans. That's how I got the job. They're fans of my first record, and so it was fun for them, and it was definitely fun for me. And with the guys in Danger, they're family to me. You know, that's with something we share. I think we made a bunch of good records. I'm proud of those albums, and I'm proud of our friendship. We've managed to stay friends all these years, and because again, those guys in it for the right reasons.
Exactly.
I love writing songs. I love writing songs. We all just were diehards, and we kept going. Probably when we should have quit.
You know what? Danger reminds me a little bit of Firehouse, a band that never got the merit that they deserve, because I would compare it both, but your voice and CJ Snare's voice are not similar, but a little bit, very powerful voice. And CJ is already in his 50s. It doesn't look like it, and he still has a totally amazing voice. Have you ever had a chance to work or to play with Firehouse?
I haven't. No. And you're right. They're that band that I kept. As the years went on, I looked at them and I looked at Harem Scarum, and I'm like, we're like the last three bands still doing this. Like other bands would fall to the wayside, and we'd still be going out on tour, right? And
oh my God! Yeah.
Firehouse is still going on tour, and Harem Scarum still going on tour. We're all going to Europe. We're all going, doing good tours in the States, crappy tours. It didn't matter. Just went on the road and played. People showed up, so we kept going.
Exactly. I listened to my favorite podcast is Chris Jericho's podcast. Talk to Jericho on Podcast One, and he had Sebastian back. I think about a month and a half ago, and listening to him, it was like I would love to play in the U.S., but it doesn't even cover for the bus. The money we get paid doesn't even pay the gas that it takes to get to the town. So we go to Europe, So, and he was like, he had a fan from Houston on the chat room saying, "I'd love to see you in Houston." He was like, "Well, Houston, we'll see each other in Japan."
You know what? Sebastian's just got to grow a pair and rent a U-Haul trailer and get a 14-passenger van and do it old school.
Wow, exactly.
And I challenge you.
Have you, all these guys, from Skid Row, and have you ever played with them or been near them like Skid Row or Guns N' Roses back in the day?
Yeah, I actually, the day I signed my record deal, what an epic day that was. Bon Jovi it was May 12th. Bon Jovi was in town the night before on that tour where they had Skid Row opening for them, playing a BC Place. So, the night after, there was a place called 86th Street in Vancouver, which was like a 1,000-seat club, and Skid Row was playing a headline gig there. And everybody was in town recording at that time. So Motley Crue was in making Dr. Feelgood record, so they were there that night. And Billy Duffy from The Cult, he was in pre-pro with Bob Rock, and it was his 25th birthday. And Aerosmith was, of course, working on Pomp. And so all of these people were hanging out at this club in this cordoned-off area. And Mike Reno came and picked me up from Loverboy because I signed my deal that day and said, "Listen, kid, I'm going to take you out. You're going to have the night of your life. This is what we're going to do." So that's the very first time I met Bon Jovi, met Skid Row, met Aerosmith, met Doc McGee. Doc McGee tried to kick me out.
Are you serious?
Which was funny, and I got drunk with Mike Reno. So that was a pretty good night, and it was fun meeting all these guys who were heroes of mine. Just get them all done at once.
Wow, that's incredible. So you've lived a life, and you're still going strong today, which is amazing. And so right now at this point, I think you're in a very creative state of mind because you're writing and creating new music for the next album from Dark Horse. And that's what I read in your post today, and I was like blown away from when you said, I love being a loner and have time to think, do things like hiking or surfing where I can think and get in a groove. And so what would, a good day of, being creative would be for you? Like waking, are you an early bird or, do your stuff?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a rundown of my day. Typically, I get up. I work fairly late. You know, I'll work till after midnight, 1 in the morning. I'll finish up doing some social media stuff, and then I'll put on a documentary and pass out. I always listen to like some documentary. I fall asleep trying to educate myself. And the talking, the noise from like being on tour and listening to television all the time, falling asleep for the last 30 years of my life. I need some noise to get me to sleep. I get up about 7:30 in the morning. I always start the day the same. Put on some vinyl, drink a cup of coffee, and then I head out to the studio by about 9 o'clock in the morning. And the studio's in my backyard, and I just start work. Whether that's currently I'm mixing the Radio Sun's new record. I'm composing a 70-piece orchestral piece of music for a client of mine, and I'm writing the Dark Horse record. So I decide in the morning what I'm going to do. If I feel the writing thing coming on, then I'll immediately switch over to Dark Horse. If I feel like I've got this idea for this cello section or an oboe part or woodwinds, then boom, I'll go back to the orchestral project. And if I feel like I need to do something a little easier, not that mixing's easy, but it's less intensive, I'll go to mixing the Radio Sun record. So I like to have the choices, and I like to be able to get up and just sort of follow whatever passion I feel that day. So, and then I get to work. I'll take a break, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I go to the gym, work out for an hour and a half, come back home, and then that's it, man. I'm back in the studio until night. In wintertime is typically when I write, because we don't have a lot of hours of darkness or of light. A lot of darkness, and by the time the sun comes around in the springtime, man, I want to go surfing. I don't want to be in the recording studio. I want to be in the studio as little as possible. I've just spent 5 months recording, right? So
exactly. Do you live on Vancouver Island or in Vancouver?
Yeah, I live as far away from you, Dom, as I possibly can.
Damn right. It's a 75-hour drive.
Just literally, I live as far away from you. Not deliberate, but I live in the furthermost, western place in Canada, I guess, and. I like Vancouver Island. It's a different kind of life over here. We have surfing and skiing, and it's very, very beautiful. And the lifestyle that I have is really conducive to what it is that I do, which is I need to create all the time. Obviously, I write a ton, and I need that downtime. I need that quiet time. I need to get lost in order to do it.
Exactly. And that's the funny thing about Canada, is that sometimes when I talk with people in the States, and at one point, I got a friend of mine texting me, Dom, it'd be fun to meet you tonight. We're in Canada. So I'm like, okay, where are you? It was in Calgary. So I'm like, sure. It's 52-hour drive.
Well, they don't, American school, and I'm not dissing on Americans, I'm just saying what they know about Canada, it becomes really, you get really aware of it when you travel down there. How many times I've been, I got a friend there, Bill. Do you know him? What's his last name? Sure, everybody knows him.
Exactly, because, there's only 25 million of us, right? So.
Yeah, but listen, I kind of want to turn the tables on you. You've been grilling me about my career and my life. How did you get into getting in the music business? That's a crazy choice in life. But I woke up this morning thinking, my life it's been interesting, and it's an interesting choice. How the hell do you get into the paranormal and decide to make that a career?
Yeah, that's a good question, because 90% of the time when I have people on my podcast, I ask them the question, when they're a paranormal field, how did you start it? And everybody has that story. Oh, I was 5 years old, something incredible happened, my dad, passed away, and or somebody will be like, I was 10 years old with my mom on vacation, she was gone, she left me for 5 minutes, and you know what, I heard footsteps footsteps, somebody touched me on the shoulder. And everybody's got those amazing, or it's from father to son. Like I had Alexandra Alzer on my podcast. You know, her father, Hans Alzer, is like the godfather of paranormal. He's like the... he was the first man to do paranormal investigations and tests. He was a professor. And I'm like, oh my goodness, so it's like a second generation ghost hunter. and I never had anything happen to me, until I started, I was a big fan of the X-Files in the 90s. You remember it was shot,
sure.
in Vancouver,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Mulder and Scully, and I was kind of a mix of Mulder and Scully. I was Scully, like a skeptic, but I was also a Mulder, like I want to believe, the truth is out there. I want to know what's out there, but I never had anything happen to me. But I've had a lot of things happen to people who were with me that I didn't notice. Like, one time we're in Wyoming and the whole night, my ex-girlfriend heard footsteps around the tent and she saw shadow and stuff like that. And she didn't sleep at night. When I woke up in the morning, it was like 5:30. It was still a little bit dark. And she kind of scared me. She said, I heard footsteps all night. I still hear it. And I was like, yeah, you do. I hear it too. But when I opened the tent and jumped right out, there's nothing. So I never really felt anything until I started investigating. And when I started, it took about a year until something happened to the point where I was like, oh my God, okay, now I know there's something out there. But it took a long, long time. And at first I drove my teammates crazy because I was always debunking stuff. No, just footsteps, probably the wind, or I would do a private home, I would always have an answer. Like, the blinds are moving, of course, the air moving, just a small crack in the window, and there's so many reasons, to always debunk everything, every paranormal claim. Like every piece of equipment that we use, it could be somebody forgot his cell phone open. That's why the K2 spiked, or that's why there was an electromagnetic spike right now on some of our equipment. There's always, it's not an exact science. It's always subtle. It's always that. It always leaves you the possibility to think, yeah, maybe not, It's never going to be like, okay, full body apparition in front of you, or no, it's never like that. It's always like leaving you a little bit of doubt until, no, there's something out there. Because I think the first really big clue I had was the Haunted Mansion, when I really felt that bad energy surrounding myself. And that night was crazy. We caught great stuff, we caught on the Ghost Box, it's absolutely sweeping through radio stations. It creates that white noise, like, and we were feeling that aggressiveness, and we heard get out and the F word many times. And I was like, wow, why is so angry, why aren't you peaceful? Why does it feel so, aggressive? And it said clear as day, there is no peace in us. And it said this way, there is no peace in us. And the whole team was left speechless. And I'm like, okay, so try to go like, okay, with sweeping radio stations, like it can be, if you sweep the station like 100 milliseconds, you can't be on one station for more than, a thousandth of a second. So it can't be a full word. But to have, I had two children. Or when we asked, did you have children? I had two children. The same voice coming over, for like, I would say it would go from station 98 to station 104. So you're sweeping through maybe, I would say 100 radio stations, and you hear the same voice, for a good 2-3 seconds. And then you ask another question, and you try to not, not ask a question always at the same interval. So maybe wait a minute and then ask it straight off the bat, just to try to debunk it. And you have the same voice coming over and over again. And you're like, okay, no, now I can't, I can disprove it, but I can't prove it because anybody else would be like, oh, it's just radio stations. It could be your mind playing tricks on you. Yes, of course, it can. I never claimed to be, the guy that would say, you know what, I can prove to you 100% that ghosts exist. No, I can't, because if I was able to, I would be a billionaire right now. We'd be our yak,
Sure.
Probably, so no, but at the same time, I've, through the years, there's so many stuff happening through all the investigations that we did, especially private home investigations. When you don't have a clue what you do, dealing with. Sometimes people have no idea what they're dealing with, so you're going blind. It's not like going to Bobby Mackey where everybody said, oh, that's what's going on. Bob is here, Robert is here, or whatever. So when you do a private home, sometimes a brand new house. So the people are always like, it's almost impossible to have any paranormal activity because the house is new. Well, maybe it has nothing to do with the house. Might have something to do with the land or with you, maybe, or somebody that came here, just left something. It's, so many questions, right?
But obviously enough for people to bring you out. I mean, you've got to deal with every situation seriously because I think of, well, what would it take for me to call somebody to be that distressed that I need some answers, right? So
I agree,
you're kind of walking into a situation where you're both, psychologist and investigator. I see it that way.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree because, sometimes, just sitting down with the, I wouldn't say customer because we're not getting paid. We do it for free, of course. But, I mean, sit down with the person, the homeowner and talk to them. Sometimes 90% of the job is done because, people don't realize then to talk about it with a stranger and, to talk about it with friends is different. It's easier to talk about something like that with a stranger because that the people are doing it. That's what they do. They wouldn't laugh at you. Your family, sometimes they go, Dad, are you crazy? And so it's easier for them to confide. But at the same time, it takes a lot of guts to let strangers come into your house. And I've realized through the years that when I do solo investigations, it's easier for me to get access to to do some investigations because when you go with a team, people could be like, oh, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 people coming in.
Sure.
If it's only you and one teammate, it's easier to get access. And it's a privilege to be able to let people, sit on their bed or to sit in the couch or to touch their personal belongings. Like this week, I had a private investigation, and at one point we hear clearly a voice, of a woman who was a friend that passed away a few years ago from the homeowner, and she went to her room and she got a nightgown, of that woman. So she gives it to me, and the minute I have the nightgown in my hands, everything stopped. She's not talking anymore because she's probably like, hey, what the hell is he doing? A stranger with my nightgown in his hand. So I gave it back to her. So I said, you know what? I'll give it back to you because I'm pretty sure, that she would appreciate you having the nightgown more than me. So she started talking and asking questions, and we got her back on the ghost box and on the VPs because it was probably like, what the hell is this guy doing with my nightgown?
Well, let me ask you this. Was there like a defining moment? Like I have my defining moment in music that I knew that's it. I have to follow the rest of my life. This is what I'm doing. Did you have that with the paranormal?
Yes.
Or you did?
Like my I would say my WrestleMania moment, for, that big moment, that everything changed, it was Bobby Mackey because when we heard about Bobby Mackey in Kentucky, it's like the most haunted place in the United States. It's very active. It's an old honky-tonk owned by a country artist, Bobby Mackey. It's very active. Ghost Adventures have been there, claims of demonic possessions and people getting scratched, a satanic cult killing people and throwing their heads in the well, and you know the story. It's so creepy, and the stuff of horror movies. And we get there and we're spiked. We're ready for anything. We even have an evacuation plan. If something happens to anybody from the team, we're leaving because we don't want to put people's lives in danger. So we had everything down to a T. If somebody feels threatened or attacked physically, we're leaving because we don't want anybody to get hurt. But it was the most active, but at the same time, we didn't have anything negative happening to us. And we had that, like I said before, that I had 2 children. At one point, where it got very emotional because we're talking to what seemed to be the mother of a child. And I asked, what can we do to help? And it said, clear as day, you are. So I just started crying, and I was totally emotional. I'm like, okay, this is what I do. This is what I do for the rest of my life. I'm here to help. And she's now saying that I am helping.
Higher calling moment.
Exactly. That was a game-changing moment for me. That you are, and the whole investigation, because we left and we were burning sage outside the place, and but it was very emotional, very cool, and you go out there expecting to get scratched, be pushed down the stairs, and the next thing you know, you're talking to what seems to be a woman and the mother of child. So you're like, okay, so totally unexpected, but it just proved to me that that's the fun thing about it, is that we're dealing with, we don't know what, but we're dealing with something we never can expect all the time.
Well, like music, I guess you have to approach it with both an open heart and an open mind to be good at it, eh?
Exactly. I would say it's probably the same thing than when you go to a city you've never been in, and you don't know how the crowd is going to react to your songs. And do you have, when you go live, Paul, do you go with a set list that is set in stone, or do you let, there's always a spot to switch, midway through the show, or
Yeah, well, so what I do, there's two ways. With Dark Horse, I pretty much have the set down, because we're one album deep, and then the material. I add a couple other songs into the show. I might pay tribute to a couple artists that I like. But when I go to, let's say, Australia or England, or like I just went to Chicago to play the old stuff, well, people are so fanatical that they'll call out stuff that I've forgotten about. I don't remember every song. I don't remember every song on every Danger record that I've done. Like, there's some that you just kind of forget about, because you write the records, but you don't play every single one of those songs live. It's impossible to do that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll, if the audience is, I had a great show in Sydney and Melbourne last year. I went to Australia, and it was the first time I had been there. I had no idea that there was, a bunch of fans of Danger and of my first album. So people were mental. They were waiting 25 years for me to come there. When they asked me, I got so much love from the audience, I didn't want to say no. So I was playing with the Radio Sun, and thank God they know they're fans of all that music. And half the reason that I went to Australia was because of them. So I would turn around and go, do you guys actually know this song? They're like, yeah. What key do you want to play it? So I would normally do an hour and a half. I did over 3 hours that night. And those are my favorite kind of nights, where the fans drive the show. It's much more, how's the word? Not liberating, but it's more endearing as a performer to have such an interaction with your audience that they're driving the show, they're telling you what to play, and their reaction is making you want to take more risks, right? So, some of the songs we fell flat on our face, but the audience kept singing it, and those are great moments.
It must be. And when you did Doriana, what was the reaction of the crowd?
Yeah, people went mental.
Wow.
People went mental, because you forget, as the songwriter, you forget what impact your music. Like, for me, I'm always outside. I don't have that connection until I play live. And I don't have that connection, like, that people really, really love it. I'm too busy loving other people's music. And so I find it really hard to point that flashlight back on myself and think that other people feel the same way about my music as I do about, Springsteen's Born to Run, or, anything off of Fleetwood Mac Rumors or Quiet Riot record or whatever, anything that I love. I never think that people would think of me in that same category until you get on a stage somewhere halfway around the world, and everyone knows, they know every lyric and every note, and they're singing with such passion. That stuff moves me, makes me feel like tiny as a grain of sand, and just, hey, we're all in this together. And that's the best part. Besides the writing, that's the best part of my life, of what I get to experience. I'll keep doing music because I have those experiences. Because I know, hey, it might be a year from now, but I get to do that show.
Exactly. And Paul, we have another gift for the fans tonight. One of my favorite songs, you did with Danger Danger. I heard it live, I think it was about a year and a half ago, before we did the first podcast. And I heard it live on YouTube. And I was like, oh my God, because it was my favorite song from Danger Danger. And your live performance was absolutely amazing from I Still Think About You. It's a great ballad. And it's a song that, did you perform it like at every show with them, or was it a song that was not on the playlist all the time?
No, we performed. I mean, the Danger Danger fans love that song so much, and personally, I'm a fan of it too. To sing that song is wonderful. Like, I get to use my whole range to sing it.
Yeah, because
there's not a lot of songs where you can really kind of let go. Well, that song in particular is I mean, I got to hand it to Steve and Bruno. They to me, that's a giant hit. Should have been bigger for them than it was, but I think they're pretty proud of that song too. And that night that we recorded it, I was very moved too. Listening to the recording back, because I had never heard. That was the first tour that we'd ever recorded anything, and I didn't know I would be leaving the band. That was actually the last time I ever sang it with Danger Danger. That was the last show I ever did. Wow. A lot of people don't know that. That's the last recording and the last concert I ever played. And I got offered a deal for my shoegazer project right after that. Like the label had actually flown to that show and said, we want to offer you a solo deal, and just do whatever you want. And we love your writing, so make the record that you want to make. And I went, well, there's a sign. That maybe it's time that maybe my work here is done, and it's time for me to go explore something else that I want to do. That's amazing. So, but I had no idea that would be the last time I sang it. But I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of that recording, and I listen to that live record. I go, that's a really nice, wonderful way to go out. That's amazing, and I know you practiced it a little bit before, and I know it's not an easy song to sing, but. You laid it on me, man. I hope I don't mess it up. Oh, no worries here. And if you do, that's not going to be the end of the world, because, it's not easy, to just go like that, Sure. Well, I think, if I do the math, I think 2004 is the last time I really sang this. So. Oh, my God. We have a very big, 11 years later. But, right? It's your fault. I blame you, Dom. So you want me to just go into it? Yeah, perfect. Yeah. All right. I'm going to take my headphones off and just get set up here. And amazing. Without further ado, let's hope I do not mess this up. But
Wow. Amazing. Wow.
Only one mistake.
One mistake. I didn't hear it. You know, it was amazing, and you know that's a song you have to go. You know, wow, it's not an easy song to sing. Not at all.
No, it's up there, and you know, had I known, I would have practiced a little more, Dom. Like I said, I blame you for this one.
But you know what, Paul? How about if it turns out to maybe make you want to do it? You know, put it on your song list for your next show.
You might bring a resurgence of this back, Dom.
Wow, because it's an amazing song. You know, it's a song, you know, you don't hear those kind of ballads on the radio anymore. You know, that's old school, but at the same time, you know, this kind of song, like you said before, it doesn't really matter whether it did, you know, big hit on the radio, but this is the kind of song, you know, that will never die. You know, 20 years down the road, it's still going to be a great song.
Sure, I agree with that. A good song does last forever.
Exactly. No, you don't remember if "Living on a Prayer," you know, was number 1 or, you know, didn't reach number 20. You remember? I was looking, you know, I remember one night I was like, "Wanted Dead or Alive" didn't make it to number 1, and it's kind of like the signature song of Bon Jovi. And sometimes you're looking at songs from, you know, Elvis Presley, and you're like, "Oh, I didn't know that Blue Suede Shoes didn't make the top 40."
Sure, and yet it's a song that stands on its own merit, and it's iconic. And that's, you know, again, bringing it full circle to where we started. You know, music directors and program directors, they're the ones who, you know, decide and make the playlists. And you know, that's not necessarily a good recipe for going number 1.
Wow, that's true. That's true. And we have my friend Laine on Twitter saying, Paul, that, you know, enjoy the tunes. It sounded great, and it did. And you know what? If only, I don't know, maybe 30, 40, 50 new people can listen to you and go like, oh my God, you know, I will feel like I've done what you know, because it's all about, you know, bringing more people to listen to great singers. And because people is about, we talked about it Monday when we talked, you know, I said there's one thing about what you do that's different from what everybody else does, is that a lot of people like the paranormal, but not everybody loves the paranormal. A lot of people love wrestling or hockey or baseball or football, but not everybody loves football or wrestling. But I've never met one single person who doesn't like music. And, you know, people from Canada, United States, from Germany, anywhere around the world, you know, like you said, Japan, you know, Australia, music is the one thing it unites everybody. And
glue. It's the glue.
It's the one thing, you know, that unites everybody. And a great song, you know, brings back memories. And a great song could be sometimes depressing to hear when it brings back old memories. But at the same time, you know, there's nothing we wouldn't be able to do without music. You know, I don't remember one day that I didn't listen to at least a song. And when you go in your car, you know, this is the best thing. You're like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to put on. Oh, I'm going to listen to this song. And then it brings you back to 20 years down the road. Or it brings you, it can put you down. It can bring you up. It can make you feel down. Or it can make you, like you said, you know, it could be a good thing. It can bring back bad memories. But at the same time, you know, you just switch and put another song and that's it.
Yeah, it's the one thing that can change your mood in an instant. And the only other thing that you can do with that is drugs. And so to me, music is the healthiest drug on the planet.
It is, Paul. It is.
Change our mood, change our space, take us to a different place. And I still feel the same way about it. I still have that that sort of 5-year-old inside of me that connects, you know, to music in that way. And that the times in my life where I lose that connection, where I get too bogged down with work or other scenarios or personal stuff that happens in life, it's because I've gotten too far away from that 5-year-old, that innocence, that thing that makes me feel connected as a human being. So that's been a life lesson for me. As I get older, I really think about it all the time, that it's really important for me to stay connected to it, which is why I work so much now, because I work harder than I've ever worked, but I also go, the clock's ticking, and I've only got a certain amount of time to get this work out, and work makes me happy. Music makes me happy. And, getting to do this, connect with people like you, it makes me happy. What better job in the world could I have? I think a lot of people's unhappiness is not knowing where they're lucky.
It's so true. So true.
So I'm lucky. I'm lucky I get to do this. Whether I make money and I'm broke. I make money and I'm broke. I don't care. I always go, well, music pulls me through, and there'll always be another song to do for somebody. There'll always be another song to write for myself, and I'm just gonna keep going. Until I'm not breathing.
And this podcast that we do, I really would love for us to do it at least once a month or once every 2 months, because I'm sure we can bring more people to behind the scenes. There's so many more subjects we could cover. Like how to create an album. Take us with one podcast. I would love for you to bring everybody with you on a tour, like, okay, this is day one, this is how it goes, or bring us with you in the studio. How does it work? And there's so many more things. How does it work to try to promote a single? We talked about it on the first part of the podcast, but there's so many more things to talk about. The people you grew up listening to, like you said, there's a lot of good. You met Aerosmith. My goodness, you met so many people in the industry, and I would love, if you want it. I'm sure people would love for us to keep going.
Sure, yeah, I would love to do it. I got a lot. Me. If you read my Facebook, I'm a storyteller.
You are.
And I've been fortunate enough to work with some amazing people, and now only kind of at this stage in my life when I look back, and because I never really look back at anything, but writing has been that for me. Social media has been wonderful for me, because I've all of a sudden I found a reason to put all of this stuff down, because I wrote one story, and then the next day I looked at my Facebook, because I hired a social media guy, bless him, Simon Alley. He said, listen, you gotta tell the stories that you tell me all the time. I told the story, and the next day there was 4,000 people that read it, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
That's amazing.
I have 200 likes on my page at this point.
But you know what, Paul? Believe that what you wrote is from the heart, and people can feel you've been there, and that's the reason why we're gonna get. There's only a minute left on the podcast, but I want people to know that this is the second one we do, but this is the first of probably an ongoing series. We're probably gonna have to rename it. I don't know how we can rename it, but we can rename it a certain way so that when we do our podcast together, it's gonna be like, instead of bringing it on, it could be something else. But that's
we're not naming it Laine Domination. No. It's not happening, Dom.
Or we could the fast lane. Oh my God.
That's a good way to end this, right?
Yes, it is. Paul, thank you so much for your time, buddy. I always enjoy talking to you, and instead of just talking on the phone and being like, damn, we should have recorded it, then we're going to record all of our conversation and make it a monthly podcast. That'd be amazing. And
yeah.
So thanks for your time, brother. It was awesome talking to you again.
I feel the same way, Don. Thanks for letting me do this. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much.